Welcome to the WD168. God gives us 168 hours every week to live, love, and serve. This is our take on this 168 from the Western Diocese. And now some good news. Yes, good news. I know, after the past year, truth is stranger than fiction, right? I mean, you can give an Academy Award for the performance we had this past year in real life. But this weekend, we greeted some wonderful good news. And yes, President Biden did what no other president dared to do by officially declaring the massacre of 1.5 million Armenians as genocide. We were in Hollywood at the march demonstration on April 24th, where Congressman Adam Schiff shook elbows and read the letter signed by the President of the United States of America. Let's listen in.
It is an honor for me to read to you the words of the President of the United States on this historic day. Each year on this day, we remember the lives of all those who died in the Ottoman-era Armenian genocide and recommit ourselves to preventing such an atrocity from ever again occurring. Beginning on April 24, 1915, with the arrest of Armenian intellectuals and community leaders in Constantinople by Ottoman authorities, 1.5 million Armenians were deported, massacred, or marched to their deaths in a campaign of extermination. We honor the victims of Medjugorje so that the horrors of what happened are never lost to history. And we remember so that we remain ever vigilant against the corrosive influence of hate in all of its forms. Of those who survived, most were forced to find new homes and new lives around the world, including in the United States. With strength and resilience, the Armenian people survived and rebuilt their community. Over the decades, Armenian immigrants have enriched the United States in countless ways, but they have never forgotten the tragic history that brought so many of their ancestors to our shores. We honor their story. We see that pain. We affirm the history. We do this not to cast blame, but to ensure that what happened is never repeated. Today, as we mourn what was lost, let us also turn our eyes to the future, toward the world that we wish to build for our children, a world unstained by the daily evils of bigotry and intolerance, where human rights are respected and where all people are able to pursue their lives in dignity and security. Let us renew our shared resolve to prevent future atrocities from occurring anywhere in the world, and let us pursue healing and reconciliation for all the people of the world. The American people honor all of those Armenians who perished in the genocide that began 106 years ago today. That is the statement of President Joe Biden.
Of course, the president's acknowledgement was welcome news to the Armenian Americans, but so is the blessings we receive from the United States. One of the most beautiful expressions that we have is the expression of gratitude. It is even more accented by our Christian faith. Take a moment today to send a message of appreciation to your congressman and to the president. It'll go a long way. And while genocide recognition is important, putting it in perspective is essential. Following last week's murder trial of George Floyd and the conviction of Derek Chauvin, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison expressed a sentiment that's important to keep in mind. Ellison said, "I would not call today's verdict justice, because justice implies true restoration. But it is accountability, which is the first step towards justice." In the case of the murder of 1.5 million Armenians, it's compounded by 106 years and the generations and the lives that have been lost, which could have made Armenians a physical force that was invincible. but unmistakably, today we are a force that in spirit is invincible. The cornerstone to that spirit, of course, comes from our faith. This weekend began with our primate Archbishop Hovnan Derderian setting the direction for commemoration with his message at the Sacred Divine Liturgy Friday evening on the eve of April 24th. With the attendance of the clergy brothers from different traditions, Sirpazan brought it all together by speaking on the theme of "Do not quench the spirit," from St. Paul's letter to the Thessalonians. With prayer, he's tied the message of the evening to the brave soldiers of our nation who sacrificed their lives in last year's Artsakh war. Today's Badarak, said Sirpazan, is dedicated to the sacred memory of our saints and is a call of the Spirit, an invitation to rebirth so that we may become sons and daughters of a new nation. As always, you can hear his entire message on our Facebook page. Throughout the diocese, communities large and small brought their voice and power to the commemoration. Let's take a look. The weekend came to an end with a most fitting and moving concert Sunday evening. Under the direction of Maestro Rafi Mikhaelian, the cathedral's Shnorali choir rendered a most soul-stirring version of Getader, followed by a concert dedicated to the sainted martyrs. With emotional and heartfelt performances by concertmaster Ashot Tumanyan and the orchestra, attendees were treated to an evening that remembered the tragedies of the past, but left us all hopeful of the future. The musical treat was accented inside the sacred space of our Sirpots Revontians St. Leon Armenian Cathedral. With April 24th behind us, the greater challenge of being Armenian on April 25th, 26th, 27th, and the rest of the year is upon us. On a personal note, while in Rancho Mirage this past weekend at the commemorative event, there was a gentleman who approached me and mentioned that it was thanks to our diocesan show, this WD168, that he learned about the event and attended, discovering the church and the community there. I'm sure many of you have heard, read, and perhaps even quoted the famous William Saroyan quote about where two Armenians meet following persecution and hardships, see how they will create a new Armenia, he says. A beautiful sentiment indeed. But if I may add, there's a place where those two Armenians meet. After the genocide, it was in the church where the Sasunsi would meet with the Kharpertsi, where the Vanetsi would sit down and have a cup of coffee, tea with the Mushetsi or the Balutsi. Things have changed since those days, But the centrality of our church in our communities serves many purposes, including a place where the Armenian from Armenia can meet the one from Iraq. The Armenian from Iran, Egypt, or Ethiopia can meet with the Armenian from London, Paris, and the Armenians from America. Think about it. It's the place of creating your future. Yes, there is a lot of work ahead beyond April 24th. The humanitarian crisis in Armenia, the prisoners of war, are still held captive, as are the monasteries and the churches of Artsakh. It's your church, it's your diocese that's working on these projects and invites you to join the hands of others in continuing our work for justice and peace. Well, that does it for this week's 168. We look forward to seeing you in church, of course, online, on the socials, and again next week when we gather together and look at that 168 from the Western Diocese.